Yeah.
So philosophy of science is wrong.
No, the primary mechanism is genetic drift. That is primary.
The primary.
Yeah, that's the primary.
I'm shocked you're saying this.
No,
And you're on YouTube.
surprised.
Are you drunk or something?
So all you're going to do
You're
is-
telling me did Darwin write about genetic drift?
Darwin didn't know about genetic
Exactly.
drift.
So Darwin's main idea
So
was
Darwinian
natural
evolution-
selection.
So Darwinian evolution refers only to what Darwin himself proposed.
No.
Right? The Darwinian
No.
mechanisms, natural and sexual
Wait,
selection.
hang on, Aaron.
So that-
You're really embarrassing yourself here.
No, I'm not.
You're
Darwinian-
saying the primary driver of evolution is genetic drift.
Yes.
Okay. Do you know what I want you to do? I want you to go down the road to the Royal Society. You've just discovered something amazing because according to them, they believe Darwin was right. Natural selection is the primary driving force. Of course, some of them disagree,
Darwin was right, and in his time he didn't know about genetic drift.
but Aaron, you're saying genetic drift is the primary factor?
Yes. Yes.
You need to write a paper and you need to
don't
challenge
need
all the
to- I don't need to
Darwinists
write another
because
paper.
you just made two. No one's talking to you, yeah? You just made two grave errors. Yes, it is.
I can
Yes, it
sabotage
is.
the conversation as
You
well,
could
mate, if
try.
I feel
You
like
could try.
it. I
You
can.
could try.
Because
Actually,
you're being rude to everybody around here, and that's not the
So?
nature of the... So?
I'm not talking to you. Because you're interrupting me. I'm talking to him.
So what he did, what he did,
I wasn't talking to you.
What he did in our debate was to
I'll
redefine.
sabotage the convo if you want, mate.
You can help him, but he's looking desperate right now. He's looking desperate right now.
I really want to have good discussions, man.
I know, and I know you're.
You're wearing sunglasses on a sunny day, on a cloudy day.
I'm not supporting everything he's saying either.
So what he did was to redefine Darwinian evolution
According to what philosophers say.
into macroevolution.
No?
And what was the word you used for microevolution? Because you didn't use macroevolution.
I don't even know if you're sober right now, to be
I
honest.
think he just used evolution for that, and then Darwinian evolution became the macroevolution argument. So Darwinian evolution was known to be the things that Darwin himself postulated, which was natural and sexual selection.
Wait, hang on.
in
You
the
just
1800s.
contradicted yourself.
And no, I
You just
didn't. I
you just
did
said
not.
natural and sexual selection, and before you said the primary force is genetic drift.
That's correct. Both statements are indeed
Again,
correct.
do you know how you're being consistent? By
Yes.
being inconsistent.
I'm
First you were
not being
inconsistent
inconsistent.
about instrumentalism and realism, and now you're inconsistent about natural selection being the primary force and the genetic drift.
Because I'm a bit confused. Because when you said
Darwin didn't know about genetic drift. He knew that natural selection acted on differences. He didn't know the source of the differences. It turns out the source of the differences is genetic drift, and that is actually the primary, because you can have quite a lot of evolution without any natural selection or sexual selection even being involved. That's what makes it primary.
It's not. Wait. Hang on, Aaron. Tell me this, right? If what you're saying is right, why is it that the scientific and the philosophy of biology literature doesn't reflect that?
You're going to assert that it doesn't, and you have.
I'll tell you. I'll
done.
give you evidence that it doesn't. I'll give you evidence that it doesn't. Michael Roos is a philosopher of science. He's an atheist, so yeah, he has no
We have
trouble.
to have another citation. Some famous philosopher, some famous somebody
what's
says
your-
something.
So what do you want? You want me to quote Muhammad Hijab, or you want me to quote that guy with a hat?
I'm not having to cite anybody else.
But you should cite someone if that's the natural science. Right?
Well, then let's do this online where I can look up everybody's name.
Okay,
and just-
so why do you give us? Why do you give it? Why do you?
Otherwise, I'm giving the evidence directly. I'm explaining how it works.
Aaron, why do you give us evidence that genetic drift? Give us a citation. Genetic drift is the primary force.
Why do I have to give a citation? We're talking directly. I'm
making a
explaining
claim.
it.
You're making-
I'm explaining it to him.
So give me evidence for that.
I just did.
What's
So-
the evidence? You said so.
Your word.
Do you accept that humans have an average of 128 mutations per zygote?
Yeah, they could do.
What?
They could do.
They could do. Okay, so you accept it. So I mean, this type of variance occurs in all organisms, right? And this is the source of genetic drift, right? You understand that if you put a population...
It's not the source of genetic drift. Genetic drift is a force. You're conflating
and
terms.
The source of that variance is...
Okay, no, Aaron. What you're doing is you're making again another conflation, right? Let me explain what you're doing. Natural selection is the force. One second, Aaron. Random mutations is the fodder, which is the Play-Doh which natural selection shapes. Genetic drift is not a primary force. It is a secondary or tertiary force within the paradigm of Darwinian evolution. So you have genetic drift. You have
organism.
wait, hang on. You have genetic drift. You have natural selection being the primary thing.
Nope.
You also have niche construction. You also have
we don't have natural selection as a primary thing. For the
natural
reason that I
selection
already
is the
explained.
primary thing.
That's what Darwin thought. And he was right that natural selection is a thing, but later it was determined
Okay, have you heard of Francis Crick?
yes, of course.
Okay, do you think Francis Crick knew what he was talking about? You know what you're talking about.
I did just explain how this works.
Okay,
You should
Francis
understand.
Crick, here's what he said.
He's got
Okay,
to
one
quote
second.
somebody again.
Okay, but you don't give any scientific evidence.
I do when we're in...
And you know what? Francis Crick.
explain the science
Wait,
to
hang on. Here's,
It doesn't do any
but
good to cite papers if
you
you
don't
haven't
like
read
the
them.
philosophy of
I
science.
said it.
You don't like the philosophy of science. So how can you explain the science? Francis Crick. Here's what he said about the blind watchmaker. Richard Dawkins wrote The Blind Watchmaker to explain the power of natural selection, not genetic drift. Natural selection being the primary force.
But you understand-
And one second, Francis Crick said, if you doubt the power of natural selection to be the driving force in evolution, then read The Blind Watchmaker. Right? So you're challenging me. You know Dawkins. Why don't you write to him and say he's wrong?
Do you understand that every organism has this variance, right? Genetic variance, these mutations, that these are the sources.
No one disagrees with that. I don't think the tree disagrees with that.
Okay, I don't care about the tree. So you understand that any population of organisms, you're going to have this kind of diversity, right? And without natural selection even being involved, or sexual selection either, neither of the Darwinian mechanisms, neither one of them are necessary. You're still going to have evolution. Natural
You're
selection...
making a different claim now. The
I'm
earlier
saying
claim you made was it's
Genetic
not the
drift
primary
still
force.
apply- right, because genetic drift still applies whether there's natural selection or sexual selection. So you don't need either of the Darwinian mechanisms to achieve evolution. That's true.
Aaron, do you
And
know
it
what?
doesn't matter what somebody
Aaron,
said somewhere.
but Aaron,
That's true, and
okay.
we can all understand that, right?
Okay, Aaron, here's the thing, yeah? If you're going to make claims like this, at least give...
Are you going to disagree with
I
what
totally
just
disagree
said?
with that. And I gave you
totally
evidences for
disagree
that.
That if you put a population of
No.
any organism...
I totally disagree that it's the primary force.
But if that force, is it a force now, or we agree to use the word force? If we're going to allow that genetic drift,
What do you call it?
it doesn't really matter.
The effect.
I mean, so I'm not
Whatever,
going to
the effect of genetic drift.
Not like he's doing me. So if you allow a herd of sheep out here, right, and you're going to have variation within those sheep. Eventually, we could even have a form of speciation without any natural selection or sexual selection necessary. So that makes genetic drift the basis, because that operates when the others even don't exist.
Okay, so now you're saying something different. Before you said it's not the primary force. Now you're saying, assuming natural selection is not there, evolution will still take place. These are two different claims.
Are you not? How do you not understand anything I just said?
No, I did understand clearly exactly what you said.
Obviously not.
So you
didn't
wait,
understand
hang on a second,
anything I
Aaron.
said.
You need to listen to me because I'm not sure if you really understand what's going on.
Right, he's just going to insult me some.
Guys, maybe
Well,
you just
It's
don't
been
understand.
a staple of this conversation since our friends interjected.
Well, Aaron, if you're going to make claims, I'm going to challenge them. You can't accept me. You can't expect me not to challenge them.
You're going to deny that evolution is going to happen with just genetic drift. You deny that.
No, I totally agree with that.
Well, then, what are you saying that you disagree with me about?
Maybe we
What I'm
agree.
saying
That
is
was the one claim I was making.
No, the claim you were making was it's the primary
Right,
force.
because it exists,
So genetic
and
drift
it operates even without the others.
Hang on.
The others
And
need... understand this. Without genetic drift, you don't have anything for natural selection to act upon. That makes genetic drift primary.
No, you're actually speaking about random mutations, not genetic drift right now.
Where do you think the genetic drift comes from? Is from the random mutations.
Random
That's why I
mutations.
started.
Yes, but you're making a category mistake again. Aaron, you really
Am I
need...
making a category mistake?
Aaron,
let's hear why.
no one's going to help you out here, right? Aaron,
This is not going to get any better.
Can we draw like back to that?
but Aaron, it's because you don't understand the philosophy of science.
We're going to take his place.
No, I'm saying, can we draw to like the existence of God? I mean, that was.
Look,
I mean, we're just.
Question, because in the beginning what you were saying, I wanted to actually, because I'll be honest with you, this is very technical for a lot of us, right?
Okay.
And so I want to bring it back to a point that you made, which maybe a lot of us more can relate with, which is the question of, because I saw your debate with Suboor, and it was a lot of semantics, like the question of what is a fact. Now,
Yeah.
for the purpose of like,
Did you see when I did the debate, when I showed what the actual definitions are and how he was misusing them?
I don't think he was misusing.
I can prove that he was, and in fact I did prove
But
that he
you
was.
didn't
I just
know
wanted
what
to
a
ask
fact is.
you
You
a
asked
question.
Josh what a fact was just now.
Now, when in the vernacular, in the common vernacular, right, when we say the word fact, what we mean is an kind of incorrigible truth, right? Now,
A point of data that can be objectively verified.
no, not that.
Okay.
I'm saying because verificationism is another issue.
What else is truth then?
No, because that's we're presupposing with that verificationism. I'm not presupposing.
I'm not going on verificationism. I'm saying
so truth.
It's not a fact just because you say so. It's only a fact.
Aaron, let me ask you a question. Putting the word fact away, because I know it's a controversial word in the terminology.
It shouldn't be.
No, I know it is because we're getting confused as to in what context.
Use
philosophy
truth.
of science,
Use truth.
In science, what? So here,
Let's consider it. It's a
Let's use the word truth.
Let's use
truth. Aaron, let's use truth. Let's divorce the word fact from our dictionary. Let's use the word true.
So
do you believe Darwinian evolution is true?
Like absolutely true, incorrigible.
No, true. Do you believe it's true?
Yeah.
It corresponds to reality.
Truth has a different implication than mere fact.
Okay, fine. But do you believe it's true?
The Darwinian evolution. What is Darwinian evolution?
Darwinian,
I would define it.
Go, you define it.
As the mechanisms that Darwin came up with in the 1800s.
Go on,
you define it differently than any scientist.
No, that's not true.
Yeah, that is true.
Go with your definition.
Yeah.
Is it true?
Is it true in that way?
That depends on what he means by Darwinian.
No.
Your definition. Your definition.
Okay, mine wouldn't be Darwinian.
What would it be?
Mine would just be evolution. So he mentions Darwinism and.
So you wouldn't use the word Darwinism?
So, okay.
No, I wouldn't.
Do you know Darwinism is an academic term?
Yes, and I know that it's only popular here. In the United States, our scientists there don't use that.
So therefore it can't be true. If it's defined two different ways and one place is true, one place is not true.
Because Darwinism is used in the United States to conflate with a religious belief.
Oh, by the way, you know that claim you kept making that it's not true in the United States? We don't use the term Darwinism. Totally false, because Jerry Fodor is an American philosopher of science.
But Suboor, I wanted to come back to this point because this question.
And plus, by the way, what you're trying to say is academia, because we have this massive sea across us, the UK and the USA, we somehow lose an academic term. That's total nonsense, Aaron.
I was
It looks kind of silly.
explaining that the reason that most of our scientists have stopped using Darwinism is because it's conflated with religious.
That's not true either.
It is, and I have citations.
Can you give me
for
the
that.
name of one American scientist who believes in biological evolution but doesn't accept the term Darwinism?
I can name several.
One.
Okay. What the? No, not plate. God, don't you hate it when the name you need is right on the top of your head? Fuck. Paleontologist, University of California. I can't remember.
And you're saying he does not accept the term Darwinism, and you're willing to say that.
He doesn't use the term Darwin. It's not that he doesn't accept it.
So he doesn't use it.
The reason that we don't in the United States is because it is being used to conflate with religious belief. So they treat Darwinism as if it is a religion. So in the United States, where this tendency is common, we stray away from that word. Just like we don't want to say that we believe that evolution is true, because believe also has been taken to mean make-believe. So we have to say we think.
Aaron, this scientist, let's just call him Mr. Gray.
But you can name
Mr.
others.
Gray.
He said several.
Hang on. All right, Mr. Gray and his caravan full of other scientists. You're telling me if they came here to Speaker's Corner, they wouldn't accept Darwinism as an academic term?
They wouldn't use the word Darwin.
No. Would they accept that it exists?
Well, they would accept
there
that
you
it
go.
exists.
That's
yes.
all my point is. That's all my point is.
I don't think you had a point.
Just going back to the point, because for me, no, because what I wanted to, which side?
So, what I would describe as evolution, right? Which he divided macroevolution and macroevolution.
I didn't make those definitions. If you remember, I said I don't believe in those.
I understand.
You don't believe in it.
He redefined them, so he put them in a different category.
And do you know evolution was used before Darwin? And I did mention that, which is why Darwinian evolution is different.
Yes, I understand that too. Irrelevant though that introduction was. So what he did is he redefined so that the macroevolution category became the Darwinian evolution.
I never heard him do that today.
I didn't do that.
Yeah, not today, in our debate.
No.
You saw
Even in the debate, one thing I made clear is I'm speaking about the academic definition of
You have to
Darwinism.
define terms.
The academic definition.
Okay, show
Because in one of your own videos, you spoke about Lamarckian evolution, right or wrong?
Yep.
You did. So Lamarckian evolution is different to Darwinian evolution, is it not? So why am I wrong for using the term Darwinian evolution?
I said that we tend not to use it in the United States for the reasons that I gave.
Okay, so tell me this.
You then, you then chose Darwinian evolution to mean not what Darwin proposed as opposed to Lamarck, and not what Darwin and not what Darwin's mechanisms were. You used Darwinian evolution as a replacement for macroevolution.
No, I didn't.
Because you said the phylogeny.
I didn't. Look.
So you divided the process from the phylogeny. So you wanted to create an illusion that there's two different things,
wait, hang on.
which is basically the division between microevolution and
No, it's not. So look, when I gave the definition of Jerry Fodor, he said that there are twin ideas within Darwinism. One is the tree of life, one is natural selection as the driving mechanism. That's the definition I used.
to divide microevolution and macroevolution.
Not micro and macro, because Aaron, you can have
Darwinian evolution. You gave a different definition.
Aaron, look, let me ask you this question because I don't think you're getting this. If we ignore the tree of life and replace it with the web of life, you can still have macroevolution. So it's irrelevant the tree of life is there or the web of life is there or the hedge of life is there.
What is macroevolution?
Well, it can be defined in many different ways.
It
but
can be defined one way.
Not
the way.
No, wait.
And I can prove the way.
Okay.
But what do you think?
Okay, wait. If you go by one of the basic definitions of species, right? So if you say biological isolation, so there's biological isolation between this species and this species. Now, going back in their history, both of these species actually, which are geographically isolated, they can't reproduce. They go back to a common ancestor. That would be macroevolution.
The correct definition is that microevolution is variation within a species, that being the varieties within breeds.
You say macro or micro?
Micro is variation within a species, that's within a breeding population, so subspecies classifications or breeds. Macroevolution is variation between species.
That's what I just said.
At or above the species level.
That's what I just said.
Is that what you said?
He tried to go convoluted and
backwards. No, but that is what he said.
That is what I said.
Okay, so he wants... Okay.
But you being a scientific instrumentalist, you wouldn't agree with the phylogeny anyway, because you believe in. But remember, a scientific instrumentalist, which you subscribe to, would say unobservable entities, structures, and processes are not speaking about truth. We have to be agnostic about them. So you're going to be agnostic about the tree anyway. So that means your phylogeny project you need to throw out. Sorry?
I think I'm kind of agnostic about everything, but I mean, we can verify.
No, I'm talking about in particular scientific instrumentalism.
We don't prove anything absolutely. But
really?
Very beginning.
Yeah.
We don't prove anything absolutely? Do you want me to bring up your video title, Aaron? Do you want me to embarrass you right now?
What is it? Is it about egos or is it about actually having a good discussion, man?
That's important. It's about facts.
It's about facts. It's about egos, man. You're saying he wants to embarrass them. He's not interested in the truth.
Generic kind of discussions.
Wait, what did the guy just say? Yeah, we don't know anything for true. Evolution is absolutely a fact. There we go.
That is
there
true.
we go.
You just contradicted
Third contradiction. Can you get that in there?
I'm a bit confused. Because
You got it, yeah?
the question is,
I want to know how he explains it.
Understanding that a fact
Listen,
is a point of
I don't mean to be rude, but I was having a conversation.
Rude, man. There's a number of people.
Alright, do you know, I'm sorry for being rude, but when I'm in a conversation with him, you're interrupting.
Really? I was talking to him right at the beginning, mate. So what do you
Relax. I'm talking to him. Can you look? You're complaining about being rude. When I'm talking to him, you're interrupting me.
Bro,
I know what a fact until they finish, and you can take over. It's objective.
Wait, hang on, relax. No one's talking to you. I'm talking to him. I've got a history with him.
Like we don't know each other.
Okay, sorry. I'm wrong, and I'm sorry. But you interrupted when I'm speaking to him, and I got upset at that, so I'm wrong about
your
that.
position.
I apologize.
We don't need to get heated.
No, I agree. I'm wrong about that. I
He's not
apologize.
usually like that.
Can we talk about that afterwards?
No.
Because it's not. We can talk. We can have food together if you want.
No. I was wrong because I was rude to him. I've got beef with him, not with you.
Aaron.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm wrong.
This is.
Do you accept my apology?
I think it would be more productive not on camera. You know what I mean? If you actually have good disagreements, you should go and do that. Because
They've had a
come into it, you
they've
know?
had a public debate, and it wasn't really one to one, so I'm quite interested to see what they...
Maybe we should...
It was left like...
Look, you accept my apology.
Somebody,
Well,
some
yes.
philosopher of science who has some convoluted weird thing.
Fine.
The fact isn't a fact.
We can all make
But I'm
mistakes.
going with the National Academy of Science.
But I've got
I'm
history
going
with
standard definition.
I understand.
I understand that because when you go into
Maybe you'll never
a
agree,
terminological definition
you know?
of a particular field or a subfield,
We won't. But
Maybe you don't not familiar with my ideas. My ideas are not more important than anyone else's.
Yes.
What you're not intending.
I'm interested in the utility of spiritual belief. Like I'm not out there to forcibly disprove God.
You're not saying.
I'm interested in how it can be used for
No,
good, whether it's true or not.
Something we can verify.
That's my
Can we
stance.
verify that this is true?
I'm not sure what you think. I never watched it.
well, he's an anti-theist.
I know.
Right?
I know that.
So I've had a previous debate with him, and then he came to speaker's corner, so I thought let me just come here as well. But I had no right to be rude, so
like him. He wants
no
to
apologies for that.
play word games with it.
Right. So you would agree then that evolution, whether Darwinian, Neo-Lamarckian, or whatever it is not absolutely true then?
No, there's a huge difference. Lamarckian evolution is complete bollocks.
That's not true.
No problem.
That is totally not true. I'll tell you why.
Are you trying to misrepresent epigenetics now?
No, wait, hang on. I'll tell you why. Transformations of Lamarckism by Eva Jablonka, who's an Israeli evolutionary biologist. You need to go to her and tell her, listen, that is bollocks.
Okay, so after
go then,
after
get a flight to Israel and go tell her that.
Of chopping tails off of mice to see if mice are going to be born without tails, it never worked because acquired characteristics doesn't happen.
That's not only in Lamarckism, by the way. It's a lot wider than that.
Okay, but Lamarckism is Lamarckism.
You said it was bollocks.
Yes. So
you need to tell those scientists. And by the way, 1 second. Go to the Royal Society and tell them when you bought those guys who believe in Neo-Lamarckian evolution, they were speaking bollocks. So you should have kicked them out.
The point he's making
you attack philosophy of science and you attack scientists.
Lamarck taught that the way that we evolve is if you work out.
Giraffe, it goes higher.
Right. If the giraffe stretches its neck, the babies are going to be born with a longer neck. If you work out with weights, your babies are going to be born stronger.